Grimpy from Cleveland, Ohio, and you're listening to Barbecue Central.
Start the game! Let's go!
We'll do it live. Okay. Do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
So to get that perfect barbecue, you use wood. Are you sure it's safe? Whatever. We put the lighter fluid on, strike the match, and... Oh! Should we call the fire department? That might be a good idea.
Good evening and welcome to the Really Big Barbecue Central Show. A show that talks about all things important to the world of barbecue and grilling. Broadcasting live and direct from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame city of Cleveland, Ohio. The barbecue capital of the North Coast. I am your program host, Greg Rempe. Happy to have you aboard here. If you want to jump in on the show tonight, share your take about live fire happenings, perhaps your own experiences over this past weekend, what have you. Here's your contact info. Hold on a second. I don't have that one unmuted. And here's your contact info.
You can get in touch with the show by calling 216-220-0966. Email Greg at thebbqcentralshow.com. On the Twitter and Instagrams at BBQ Central Show.
Everything else you want to find out about the show can be found at the main website, thebbqcentralshow.com. And here's what's happening in case you didn't get the newsletter coming up in about 13 minutes from now. He is a long-time running sponsor of this show. Dare I say one of, if not, it's not the most, oh my God. I can't believe what I almost let come out of my mouth. He is by far one of the longest-running sponsors of this show. Not the longest-running sponsor, but by far one of the longest-running sponsors of the show. He makes a product that, especially if you are a lover of the pellet cooker, if you're not familiar with who he is, you definitely want to go ahead and make sure that you are on board with at least getting to know his product, because short of the cooker, his product is second most important. First most important thing about the pellet cooker is that it's a pellet cooker. Second are the pellets, and that's Chris Becker and CookinPellets.com making his triumphant return back to the Barbecue Central show. So looking forward to talking with Chris and seeing what's new in the pellet world. We'll also talk about any new products that he might have coming up and what business is like. I think we can all agree that from a very high level, especially when it comes to backyard stuff, I don't know if we've ever seen the show the show, of course, but the industry at itself has been on such a high rise. And everybody wants to be cooking the best barbecue and grilling the best foods possible. They're taking classes. They're finally investing in some really great cookers. And with the increase in popularity of just this industry, of course, dictates that quality products are being made because quality products are being asked for, and now you have a multitude of quality products because everybody wants to be the pit master of their neighborhood or king of their cul-de-sac. Having a very tough time talking in the open here. So we'll talk to Chris about all of that stuff. He's a very accomplished business person as well, and Cookin Pellets is a huge business, believe it or not. So Chris Becker coming up in about 11 minutes. And then we will move to 35 past the first hour, and I will turn Steve Ray for 3 total segments, I guess, but twice in the same show, first hour and then second hour. 35 past the first hour, Steve and I will rejoin a talk that we had, it's got to be 4 or 5 years ago. Perhaps it was the first time that Steve's ever been on this show. And it was all spawned because at this time of year, even a few months in advance of here where we are in the middle of July, People are really hitting the competition circuit, getting out and doing catering jobs, and they have these huge trailers and toy haulers. And what do you see on social media? Blew a tire out. Axle fell off. Tragedy on the highways. This tire is going to cost me a grand championship. I'm going to be showing up. I mean, what could possibly happen? Or what do you need to do in order to give your best chance at not having this happen, right? And Steve, with as much barbecue and grilling knowledge as Steve is packed with, and trust me, just ask him, he is packed with plenty. His real life profession is that of a service station owner. So he knows maintenance, he knows tires, he knows what needs to be done, and he has seen his lion's share of exactly the pictures that I'm talking about and that we have all kind of come to know and become numb of, which is the axles falling off and the wheels blowing out and all of that. So we will talk a little bit about trailer maintenance, tire maintenance, and what you need to make sure that you have accomplished before you leave for your event or your catering gig or your long barbecue vacation, whatever. So that's Steve Ray. That'll round out the first hour. Then we will move into the second hour. And this is where we turn Steve for the second time in the show. He is, of course, 1/4, dare I say, 25% of the Embedded Correspondence. It is the fourth Tuesday of the month, so you know we are coming strong with the Embedded Correspondence. Love it. And tonight we have a couple different topics to talk about. One that really gained momentum over the course of the last 3 weeks amongst our internal chat was hamburgers. We've talked a lot about hamburgers here on this show. We've talked a lot about hamburgers on this show in general over the course of 11 and 12 years. We've had some top-notch people come on and give us their take on hamburgers right from start to finish. Whole pieces of meat and grinding down and fat ratios and preparation, divots and no divots. Do you want to flip once, twice, 10 times, all that stuff? And for whatever reason, the subject of burgers hit home with the Embedded Correspondents and myself, and we decided that we would do a little bit of a burger roundtable, if you will, and then we'll also throw in a little legality topic as well. If you're not familiar, I may or may not get to that here in the next few minutes. If not, then possibly in the second hour. So there you go. Embedded Correspondence, second hour as usual. Steve Ray, 35 past the first hour, and Chris Becker coming up in about 6.5 minutes from now, 216-220-0966. Greg at thebbqcentralshow.com, your bits of contact information. Don't forget, you can follow me socially. Get at me during the show or off-show hours, Instagram and Twitter at BBQ Central Show /Facebook. If you want to follow me there as well, you can also find a video feed on Facebook. You can also find a video feed on YouTube if you like it there. YouTube, of course, I have the ability to watch a rolling chat on YouTube, so I have a little more eyeball on that. But Facebook Live, if you're happy to leave me a comment during the show, I won't see it as it's happening, but I'll go back through and grind it out after the show, leave replies where I see fit. So it's up to you. Stay there on Facebook if you want, or hike on over to YouTube Live. The other thing that I found interesting before I jumped on the air was catching a little bit of the Indians game as they're playing Toronto in Toronto, and YouTube is carrying Major League Baseball now. They have a game of the week. And it's very weird for the first time to watch a baseball game, and then in between innings, usually you go right to the commercials. You have plenty of time to do whatever it is you need to do, get a drink, go to the bathroom, grab a snack, all of those three things. And all of a sudden, you're watching a game that has 0 commercials in it. So as soon as that third out is made, now they're rocking and rolling off of talking to managers and sending their sideline reporter around the stadium. It's unique, interesting, new look. You know, I meant to mention this last week, but getting mentioned on the Howard Stern show was tremendous. And thanking the gentleman who turned my phone in were much more important than my self-indulgence. By the way, I do want to make a quick correction. I said that the Instagram count of the guy that turned in my phone last week, I said his name incorrectly. It's Manic_Vanity, MANIC. I think I said Maniac. By mistake, I'm the maniac, not David. But at manic_vanity is the correct Instagram handle. So go ahead and give them a follow if you're interested in some cool new urban fashions. Anyway, a week ago, I went to America's Roller Coast, Cedar Point, if you're not familiar, with my youngest, and we rolled all of the roller coasters that were open. There were a couple that were closed for maintenance. She is fearless at 14. I continue to be fearless at a fresh 45-year-old. And I wore my white Barbecue Central Show t-shirt, and can you believe this? Not one person at Cedar Point stopped to recognize me. Didn't stop me, didn't give me a sideways look, not one. How can this be? Are you telling me that not one Centralite was at Cedar Point on that very same Wednesday a week and a half ago? I can't believe it. Trust me, I'm as approachable as they come. See my shirt? There's a good chance that if you're in Ohio and you see a Barbecue Central Show shirt, it's probably me. Just walk on over and say hi. I won't even expect that you would want to do anything else than that. I might buy you a drink. You're telling me not one person out of the thousands and thousands of people that were at Cedar Point, not one person saw my Barbecue Central Show shirt and thought, that could be Greg Rempe, right? My ego won't allow me to believe. I'll just figure that everybody was a little too intimidated to just come up and say hi. And I'm here to tell you, very approachable, very approachable. I'm one of the people. Right, we have Chris Becker coming up in just a minute. Hartville Hardware, the 2019 Grill Fest is happening September 21st, 2019, all day long. And yours truly will be the show master of ceremonies all day long. We'll start in the morning. We'll go until the evening. There's Traeger grill demos. There's Weber grill demos. There's Big Green Egg grill demos. Danielle Bennett, Diva Q, will be the one at the Traeger demo. We're still waiting on who's coming up for the Weber. And Big Green Eggs demoer is Lisa Delgado. She is a local Cleveland chef. She does a little private chefing. She cooks for some of the Cleveland Browns. Does a whole bunch of stuff, and evidently she has partnered in some form or fashion with the Big Green Egg. So as soon as I figure out who that Weber person is going to be, I'll pass that along. And again, Diva Q, obviously the main talent pull, aside from myself. And again, I will be hosting the event or emceeing the event. And while the demos are going on, then it's like we're in show. I'm going to be asking Danielle and whoever the Weber rep is and this Lisa Delgado questions as they're cooking. Why are you doing that? Why temperature this, temperature that? What's your favorite thing? What? We'll be taking questions from the audience. September 21st. Come on, get down to Hartville, Ohio. It's the largest hardware store in the world. Hartville Hardware. Google it. Come on. September 21st, we will be rocking and rolling with Diva Q and me. And quite frankly, that's all you need, but there's lots of other stuff going on there too. 3,000 square foot grilling fire zone, grill zone. Check them out. Look them up on Google. Hartville Hardware. September 21st for Grill Fest 2019, and Cookin Pellets is coming up.
Broadcasting live from the Barbecue Central Show studios in Cleveland, Ohio. You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
Hey, this portion of the show being brought to you by CookinPellets.com. What are the chances? Your number one source for quality wood pellets. For all of your pellet-driven cookers, you visit CookinPellets.com for more information or to purchase. In lieu of that, you could also go to Amazon.com if you want. And they are buying out the state of Ohio, believe it or not. There's going to be like 5 fulfillment centers. 2 are going up right now as we speak. So that's CookinPellets.com, C-O-O-K-I-N, CookinPellets.com. All right. If that lead-in didn't give it away, we are talking to my first guest of the evening, the creator of CookinPellets.com, Chris Becker. CB, how are you, buddy?
Good. How are you, Greg?
I'm doing absolutely fabulous. Great to have you back on the show, Chris, so we can catch up and see what's happening in the world of pellets. So I guess, let's start there from a high level. As you look at the live fire industry, Chris, I think, if we look at competition, we could probably sit here and have a conversation of maybe the luster has started to fall off of the competition thing a little bit. But when you look at the backyard and what I see on a day-to-day basis and people that I'm interacting with, the live fire industry, I don't know if it has been more popular than it is right now and has been over the last couple of years. So as somebody who is in it and selling fuel into the industry, amongst other things, how are you looking at it?
It's damn busy, Pally.
Yeah.
Let me tell you. I gotta congratulate you. Over and above on me, Barbecue Central Show, I gotta tell you, you've been around forever. We're a proud supporter, but you've been around forever. And then to get mentioned on Stern, what the hell?
I know. Come on. Look.
Oh my God.
Well, I'm best pallies with Jason Kaplan, show producer.
Oh, that's awesome. Good for you. That's great.
It was great.
Saw you, when did we see you? We saw you last, no.
It was a couple NBBQAs ago when we were in Atlanta, I believe.
Yeah, that's when it was. Geez, It felt like yesterday. It's a whirlwind, Greg. It's nutty.
So how's the pellet industry?
Yeah. And you know what? It's good.
Yeah.
I can't complain. We try to set ourselves off to the side of premium. We put it on the bag. Pellets are great. There's a lot of stuff out there that isn't so great, and I don't knock anybody's stuff. It's to each his own. But we just try making something, and we try making something that's good for everybody. You can't be all things to all people, but we try. So it's good. That's all I'll say. It's busy. It's good. We're constantly striving to do a little bit different than most others, and I think we do that pretty well.
So when you're looking at building a pellet for the masses, or I guess the greater percentage of consumer and trying to stay out of the niche or the premium perhaps, how do you go about building that pellet that you think gives you the best shot at commanding that market?
I got to tell you, it doesn't always work. That's the first thing. It's trial and error. And we came up with a pellet the end of last year. It was a sweet maple pellet, and the pellet was good, didn't travel well. We couldn't make the pellet good enough to where it stayed together and traveled well. And the problem is we don't like dust. So when people get it to their house and the bag's got a lot more dust than our normal product, that doesn't work well for us. Right. So because of that, and I think you even got some of those pellets, but because of that, we actually discontinued it. And that's not cheap to do, but we'd rather have a better product, something that has low dust, good BTU. We're a higher BTU than anybody. We have tons of reports to show that. But the point is, we'd rather make a good product and take a product away that doesn't work so well, so we only stay up at a level of premium. So
what causes a pellet to degrade in shipping? Is there not enough internal stickiness or what?
It's kind of a collective of things. Simply put, some pellets don't hold, or some woods don't hold moisture really well. Like when we make, there's three things in a pellet. It's moisture, wood, and then the lignin, or that natural binder that keeps it all together. So and we have to have moisture so it produces a good smoke. Obviously, you need wood, and then the lignin, which is its natural binder that is in all wood. And when you make a pellet at 195 degrees, kind of exudes out a little bit. And when it pushes through the die at 20 tons of pressure, that's that shiny surface on the outside that keeps it all together internally and out. That's actually lignin. And that collectively, in a weird chemistry way, if you lose sight of one of those a little bit, it kind of goes away. So our problem was the moisture content. We couldn't keep it up well enough. We thought it was, and then in shipping, and not that it went away, it just didn't make a really strong pellet. So and it makes a pellet that gets dusty, and that just doesn't work.
So does that pellet have that shiny exterior initially, and it fades, or I mean, do you have
most pellets? Yes, most pellets do. Through shipping, they get they're bounced around, they're roughed up. We have a pretty specific science on how we do our stuff. I mean, our perfect mix has been the same for like 7 years now, and it's like a guarded secret between two vaults, a small Doberman, and a smaller guy with a machine gun. I mean, we're very protective of it. But the point is that there's a recipe that we do with everything, and that's what makes the pellet a little better, because when people buy it, there's not a lot there but pellets. There's a little dust. You can't get away from it. It's a natural occurrence in pellets when they get bounced around. But when it gets excessive, we don't like that, so we just stop. So,
do you have a as it's coming through the extruder? Am I saying that right? Is there like a blade that's like chopping it into predetermined sizes? I guess the long way of the question is, do you have a specific size pellet that you shoot for? Because I assume there's some kind of a shaking thing that happens to separate out one size from the other, something like that too?
Yeah. So in short, there is kind of a cut blade on it. It's a wiper blade. And there's a couple things that happen. The mill runs at a certain speed, pushes pellets through the die, and sometimes pellets are a little smaller. Sometimes they're a little longer. Mostly they're of the size of about an inch, inch and a half, inch and a quarter. But sometimes they're smaller when we first start up, because we have to get things kind of tuned in to get them all like synced together. So the pellets are still good. It doesn't make a difference whether your pellets are a half inch or an inch and a quarter. They're all going to burn the same. There really is no difference. So, but we try getting a consistency for weight. That's really what it is. If we have too much pellet, small ones, it'll actually overfill the bag for how the line is set up. So, it's all a part of it's kind of like baking. You want to make sure you get a teaspoon, not a cup of something when it calls for a teaspoon. So it takes a little bit of, that first startup takes a little bit of getting it going, and then it makes it perfect. The pellets are still good, but sometimes they're a little smaller, sometimes a little longer, depending on when that sweep arm comes through. So,
Chris, we're talking with Chris Becker from CookinPellets.com, COOKIN, CookinPellets.com. I want to ask you about your app here in just a second, but I don't know, it was like a handful of years ago. I think it was still when Mr. Barbecue was, not Doctor, but Mr. Barbecue was still with Traeger, and there was patents about flavoring oil for wood pellets. Is that like a common practice that was that just something that was out there? Maybe they held the patents and they never actually used anything like that, or how does that work?
So, Greg, I can't verify, I can't quantify. There's a lot of hearsay. So Traeger had this idea of flavoring basswood.
Yes.
Oak and alder. And oak and alder is fine when it comes to smoking in a stick burner, but kind of there's a different chemical structure when it gets turned into a pellet. It gets turned into more fuel. And that means it's hotter. It doesn't give off as much smoke. I'm not saying it's a bad pellet. I'm just saying that it changes its profile a little bit different when it gets turned into a pellet. So one of the first things that we discovered, we've been doing this going on 15 years now for pellets, just for the cooking industry. We don't make heating pellets. But what we learned is if you use something that is based and turns into a fuel, it makes for a hotter cook and less smoke. And that's less flavor. So we don't use any oak or alder. Now on the oil side, we don't use that. We don't flavor anything. I've heard that they tried flavoring base pellets of an oak and alder or whatever it was to try getting some, I don't know what they used, an oil that could have been an hickory oil or a cherry wood oil to try getting that taste out of there. I don't know if they still do it. You can never hear anything out of the big T camp, so to speak.
Right. But I mean, I didn't know as somebody who was in the industry, and I would imagine that most pellet manufacturers know other pellet manufacturers, if that's just like a thing that's talked about or a common practice, but I guess not.
It's not a common practice. We do, in fact, we stopped using oils and only use a water to cool. We used to use a soy oil to cool a very small amount in per ton, like a quart per ton, to help keep the dye cool.
Mm-hmm.
And what we found is we can use water to do the same thing. So it's a little bit harder on the dye. We end up turning the dye over and making new dyes sooner because the wood is very hard on the dye. It takes the sharpness away. And sometimes when you get our pellets, sometimes they're blonder, sometimes they're darker. It's the same pellet. The difference is the dye is a little older, so it'll toast the pellet slightly. That's really why they get colored. So, but water is the lubricant, pretty much.
All right, Chris Becker joining me here on the show. So let's talk quickly about the app. I tell people during the read you should go and download the app, but from somebody who was obviously a crucial component of the whole app process, what's the win to download the free app?
So, nothing. At this point.
What are you talking about? This guy's a great sales guy, everybody.
Oh, I'm such a great sales guy. We're actually revamping the app.
All right.
So I'll tell you, it's not going to be a long stretch before I come back because, I mean, it's, we like talking and we need to do this more often. I apologize for not being able to, but we're actually revamping the app. The website's been revamped, and that was about a year and a half ago, and we're redoing the app. But when we get the app redone, we're going to be offering those app users deals that you'll only get on the app, better deals than you'd get off of Amazon. I tell you, go to check our dealer page and look for dealers first. Our dealers' cost for pellets are always cheaper than Amazon, guaranteed. So if you don't have a dealer by you, Amazon's a great secondary, but the dealers are always first to go to. And then as far as the app goes, there's going to be a lot of specials on there that we'll be able to push that we're going to be doing. So as that gets closer to the app being done, some cool stuff, some new things on, how to cook certain things, how to cook certain foods with our pellets, and you'll be able to use the app more, actually use than just kind of scroll through information. It'll be a usable piece.
All right. So in talking with the pellets, obviously, there are the flagship flavors and standbys that you have, but you're also a guy that isn't necessarily content with just sticking with that. You always like to develop something new, or as you talked about with these maple pellets, try something a little different. There was that apple mash pellet that was out last year or the year before. So what's new in the pellet world for you?
So we're still working on, we released, and I hate to say it, but and we're still working on it. We released a wine pellet, and this isn't a wine barrel pellet. Hugely different. A wine barrel pellet, and I'll be the first to say, it gives you no flavor of wine whatsoever. Wine barrels have a very little bit of wine that touches the actual barrel. It's kind of like when you buy whiskey barrel pellets. There's really not a lot of whiskey that touches that barrel, so you're buying oak. We have a different process that we use, and we did a sample of the wine pellet, and we got rid of like 12 tons in like a couple of weeks. It was ridiculous. The problem is our supply. So we're working at the supply again. I think we have something that's finalized coming up here close, and we're going to start making our wine pellets again.
So are you buying wine and then making, are you literally buying wine and then somehow incorporating that into the pellet making process?
I got to tell you, it's damn close to that. But for right now, I got to deal with this. So, it's kind of like that. Yeah, we're doing it a little bit different way. But and I don't know if you try. I don't think we sent you any wine pellets when we had it.
No.
And it was very short. I mean, a couple of comps used it, and some people, really a lot of our base dealer customers had bought up some, and it went in a flash, and it was very good, and it smells and tastes like a wine. But so we're working on that. We're also working on doing some videos for the website that will go along with blogs. We're looking at a book right now. We're just starting to work on that, and we're doing a lot of stuff. So.
Let me ask you, there's a topic that we're going to be running with in the second hour burgers. So aside from being in the business of live fire, I mean, I know you're a fairly accomplished cook because you've done a bunch of videos and all that. So do you have a favorite way to make a burger?
I do.
Let's hear it.
I will tell you in a quick and simple. I love I love prime rib burgers. I'm lucky enough to have a local butcher that will actually make me prime rib burgers. He does about a 70-30 mix, 70% prime, 30% regular good ground beef, and I then smother it. Once I make the patty, I soak it in, and I make numerous patties, 5 or 6 at a time. I separate them with wax paper, and then I put them in butcher paper and let them sit for a couple of days. But I smother them with a garlic olive oil, and either one that I make or a store-bought, but a very good garlic olive oil. And I leave it sit for a couple of days, and then I make the burgers, and salt and pepper only. And I'm telling you, oof, they're amazing.
Do you add in any percentage of fat along with the mix? No?
Usually the ground that I get is kind of the fat portion of it. I get a 70-30, but when he mixes that with the prime, because the prime doesn't have a lot of fat in it, so between the 70-30 and the prime, it's actually a pretty light burger. But then when you add the olive, it's light on fat, I'm sorry. And then when you add the olive oil in there, it kind of adds a little bit of that fat base back to it. I'm telling you, you got to try just douse the burger with olive oil, a good flavored olive oil, a Tuscan flavor, Italian herbs or a garlic, and then leave them sit for a couple of days and then cook them. And oh my God.
So what's your cooking process? What do you like?
I'm a 3 1/4 guy until they're done. And my burgers are, I do a good 3/4 inch burger, and I like a good medium rare, medium burger. So I'm a 325, 350 guy, and it's about a 20-minute on. So it's not a quick process. So,
are you a cheeseburger, like simple condiment guy, or where do you draw the line?
Yeah, cheeseburger, and another thing we can talk about at another time is smoked ketchup.
Smoked ketchup.
Oh, dude,
look at you!
You have no idea. If I could bottle it, we'd both be bazillionaires because we just advertise it here. So I'm telling you.
Smoked ketchup.
Oh, you have no idea. Takes ketchup to the plane of above awesome.
Huh.
That's stupid.
All right. Now, are you a grilled bun guy? Toasted bun, I guess? No?
No, I don't. I like a good, in fact, I don't usually eat my meat with a bun. Believe it or not, I'll have a pretzel bun on the side, but I like the meat to its own. I don't like mixing it, but I don't usually put a lot of condiments on it unless it's a black and blue burger, blue cheese, black and blue cheese kind of burger that, good, hearty, thick, crispy bacon with blue cheese. That's the only time I put it in a bun. A little bit of smoked ketchup and mustard on there. I'm very light on condiments. I like the taste of the meat.
All right, last question, Chris, before I let you go, and I appreciate the time. And this is a huge subject. Actually, Jim EQ in Instant Chat is kind of leading the charge here, but I figure I'll ask it a different way. You're hearing all over CBD oil.
Yeah.
What CBD pellets are coming down the pike? True or false?
So I will tell you this.
That wasn't a quick no.
If you have CBD pellets, the problem is the pellet will burn off the oil of the CBD. I will tell you, I know this for a fact, I'm a licensed grower in the state of Wisconsin.
Really?
Yes.
For pellets?
You're a funny guy.
Yeah.
No, I'm a licensed grower in the state of Wisconsin.
Nice.
So, and I got to tell you, there's a lot of oily pellets in our place. So generally what I find is the pellet will burn off any oil that's significant for a good use. I don't think you can do it. I don't think it's worthwhile. I think the pellet will burn the oil off the heat will burn it off before there's any positive outcome of it. I'd be the first one, and trust me, we've played.
Yeah.
I play a lot with a lot of CBD. I take CBD. I am a proponent. I believe in it 100%.
Yeah, me too.
We could talk CBD radio. I'm on it. I tell you, I'm 108 years old, and I look good for that.
Look at you. You don't look like a day over 95, for crying out loud. It must be that CBD. Jeez, oh, Pete. Chris Becker joining me here on the show. The website, of course, cookinpellets.com, longtime supporter here of this show, which we certainly appreciate. Chris, always appreciate the time, man. Thanks so much.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks, Greg. Congrats on the stuff.
You got it.
Great.
Thank you, sir. There he is.
Yep.
That's Chris Becker right there on the Barbecue Central show. Finally, I realized how to get all of my channels in my main feed here. I keep flipping back layers. Thank God. Again, that's Chris Becker. CBD pellets. I thought that was kind of a throwaway question, but what do I always say? My throwaway questions always seem to garner the best reaction and aren't so crazy. Good job, Jimmy Q. I see Guy the Cooking Sim is in there as well. Welcome, Guy. Hey, why don't you both stop over to Big Papa Smokers right now and stock up for all your barbecue needs, especially with those great spices and rubs. There's 13 in total, perfectly balanced flavors. They will turn your ordinary meals into extraordinary. Also, they are tied up with that Steph Franklin character from Simply Marvelous Barbecue. They have formed the West Coast offense when you use those two products together. Use them however you want and invent your own West Coast offense. They also own Granny's Barbecue Sauce. Looking for a new go-to barbecue sauce that will please everyone? Why not try Granny's Barbecue Sauce? Now, aside from the rubs and sauces, they are selling a number of different cookers out there. Of course, the Big Papa Drum Smoker, which everybody loves. They also, or if you have the ability to get a drum itself, you can just buy their conversion kit. They are the exclusive online Mac dealer for the Mac pellet cookers. They even offer special packages. If you are more of a charcoal cooker guy, the Old Hickory Ace BP is the one you might want to look at. It's actually the only charcoal smoker that Big Papa trusts on his competition trailer. Plenty other ones to choose from. If you're not sure what you need, give them a call at 877-828-0727. That's 877-828-0727. And on a competition note, I think he was off this past weekend, but Sterling has tied up 2 grand championships in a row. So congratulations to Sterling and James. Go to the website, bigpopsmokers.com. That's BIGPOPPA smokers.com. We are back with Steve Ray of Steve Ray's Midnite Oil. Stick around. Be right back.
Continuing to produce incredibly mediocre content in an exceptionally professional way. You're listening and watching the Barbecue Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
Welcome back to this portion of the show being brought to you by Butcher Barbecue, makers of award-winning marinades, rubs, injections, seasonings, barbecue sauces, grilling oils. All the Butcher Barbecue products tested on the competition circuit as well as in backyards worldwide. Be the pitmaster of your neighborhood and visit butcherbbq.com. Stock up right now. Always trust your butcher. And speaking of Butcher Barbecue, Ooltewah's own dealer of Butcher Barbecue and the owner of Steve Ray's Midnite Oil, Steve Ray, joining me here on the show. Steve, how are you, buddy?
Hey, Greg, what's up?
I appreciate you doing a little double duty here. We're going to talk a little real-life man stuff, and then we're going to turn you back into the second hour, and we'll do the embedded correspondent stuff. So
this is the serious stuff.
Now, because we're talking about, I mean, certainly one could get their hands on a ill-manufactured pellet or perhaps one that's been soaked in a little CBD oil and it's not exuding the proper effects that you might have been hoping. But this is that's not life-changing stuff, but this certainly could be, and we're talking about vehicle maintenance and specifically trailer stuff. As I had mentioned in the open, Steve, this is the time of year, even a couple months ago, you start seeing more and more competitors, the teeth of the summer are now sinking in, and they're really starting to hit the circuit. And as you know, Steve, being a competitor, there's not out of question to go thousands of miles to take part in a barbecue competition, and you're driving thousands of miles back home, towing something along behind your big four-wheel drive. And now you see the pictures. The tire's shredded. It's tipped over on the side of the road. I mean, things could go awry real quick. And my thought, and I think that's kind of how we originally got together, Steve, was how can I see this many of what appears to be the same thing? There has to be something that can be done to prevent it. And we did a segment a number of years ago, and I thought it would be good to kind of pull back out and refresh it for the folks who are going to be running up and down the summer, or at least for the balance of the summer here, depending on where you live. So let's start right off at the top. You have these toy haulers. You have these trailers that are for the convenience of the cooker. And I want to make sure that this thing is in the greatest shape possible. Do you believe, Steve, that people think that this maintenance, it just kind of skips the mind, or it's not on the front burner for whatever? There's not a wobble or a shimmy or a shake, so they just don't think about it until something drastic has happened?
Because everything was fine when they pulled back in. You know what got me thinking about this again, Greg, was I was watching on Facebook, and Richard Fergal, Fergalicious Barbecue, posted pictures. He had a hub bearing that went off on the trailer brake axle of his cook trailer. The bearing seized on it and left him on the side of the road. And you know the problem with these cooker or these trailers that we all have is, you know, they're pretty, they're heavy anyway. But then we add like Richard, he's cooking on a Myron Mixon 48. That's 900 pounds on the back, plus all the stuff that he's got inside. That's more weight. And then you build up heat, especially on that axle that's got the trailer brake on it. And if you don't have that thing greased every time you come back in, you're just asking. I mean, you are just asking for trouble. I've got a little picture right here I wanted to show you. Let's see. Let me get on this one right here, Greg. Right there. That's an axle, and it is kind of held up, but you can see the galls in it. I don't know if you can see that. It's galled real bad.
Do you want me to try it on my side, Steve?
Yeah, can you?
Yeah,
can
hold on.
you?
I think I got that. There you go.
Yeah, that's it. That's fantastic. All those lines in there are heat lines. That's a good axle. There it is right there. Oh. That's the bad one. Look where all the nicks and all the galls are in it. That's where heat has gone. The bearing has seized up on it. And what happens then is that a spindle is no good. And you either have to cut it off and re-weld a new one on there, or if you have the bolt-on kind, you have to take it off and you have to bolt it on there. But that's the disaster. That's like one of the worst ones I've ever seen right there. So, and you know, that stuff is avoidable, Greg, just by simply maintaining that trailer. Most of the trailers, go back to that other one, that first one that you had up there. That looks like the brand new one. And see how nice that one is. It's got the buddy bearing on it. It's got the nut out there is real fresh. It's got a cotter pin. It's got a grease fitting. You can see where the grease comes out of the hole. That's that looks like a rear a brake spindle right there. But see, the grease comes out of the hole. It goes in, and it comes out of the holes, and it greases the bearings real good. And it is so easy to maintain because that grease fitting is right on the end. You don't even have to take the tire off the trailer, but yet we forget to do that. And you know, I've had my trailer probably just 2 years, and I've already taken the wheels off of it twice.
On your
and
own?
Inspected on my food trailer. Yeah. And I've inspected the spindles and repacked the bearings. You know, just hitting the grease ports there, and check those rear axle brakes for any wear. Because I'm telling you, man, when you're breaking down and you've got all that stuff on that trailer, just like Richard did, it's a disaster. He had to have it. You know, the one wheel was just not enough support to take the trailer in, to limp it in. He had to have it towed. And
that
man,
gets
you
expensive.
talk about expensive.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So is there when we talk about maintenance on cars, for instance, oil change, I think Well, I'm sure that's up for debate too, but the classic mileage is 3,000 miles and then go in and change your order. If you have partial synthetic, you might be able to roll out a little more. Full synthetic, you might be able to roll a little more. But let's just use 3,000 just for ease of numbers. Is there a certain amount of mileage on tires and the wheels and the axles and all the stuff that you're talking about that you would want to check?
Excellent question. On a trailer, 20,000 miles on the tires. Now they'll look good. But what'll happen is those trailers, they sit more than you're driving. And the worst thing to do for tires is to let them sit because they dry rot. They get cracks in them, especially trailer tires, because even though they're radials, they're heavy ply tires. They're usually 6 or 10 ply tires. And that rubber tends to break down, believe it or not, quicker than a radial tire on your automobile. And because so much weight is on those tires, they start to get cracks in them. And if you can pull up that one picture I sent of Harrison holding up that tire, I don't know if you've got it or not.
Yeah, I got it. Hold on one second.
Yeah, you can see there it is. You can see how that carcass just exploded off the tire, and the actual side of that tire, Greg, stayed on the rim, and the carcass actually came off of the tire. So this person came in with a trailer. The tire was on the wheel, and the tire was still on the trailer, and the wheel had the inside of the tire, the sidewalls, but that was left. That when he came in, we just pulled that off by hand.
So that's just like the top cap.
Yeah, and look at the tread. You'd look at that tread if you're doing like a walk around inspection. You'd look at that tread and go, oh, okay, that looks okay.
Yep.
But see that the integrity of that rubber broke down, and then kaboom! When you get a little bit of weight, a little bit of heat, a little bit of speed, that's when they explode. And I mean, they will just explode, and man, you're on the side of the road. And I always tell people, if a voice from heaven came down and said, Greg, if you had paid me $450, would that have made you not want to be on the side of the road? You'd said, yes, sir, it would have.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's about what it costs to get all your brakes and your bearings packed and that sort of thing. You say, man, that's a lot of money up front. But then when you're sitting on the side of I-75 between Atlanta and Adairsville, and you're waiting on the wrecker to come, man, $450, you're thinking that was nothing. I wish I had done it.
Is this also a matter of making sure that you have proper tire inflation? And this is going to deviate from the question I just asked, but I apologize, but I don't want to forget it. Is there a easy ability to, once you get this trailer, it's rated for a certain amount of weight, being in the industry, to a certain degree, I think I have a good idea here. But if you buy that, like that trailer that's behind you, I assume that's your trailer, that's a certain weight, empty, and then, it can be rated for X, and then you start throwing all this other stuff into it. I mean, are most of these guys pushing overweight?
No, not so much, because it is a tandem axle trailer.
Yeah.
But let me tell you what the biggest mistake is. People look on your trailer, when you buy that trailer, when you look in the owner's manual, it's going to give you the recommended inflation for your tires. Your tire size is going to tell you what tire size and what ply to run. And it's going to tell you what amount of air to put in the tire. What people do, they look on the tire, Greg, and it'll say maximum air pressure, 80 pounds.
Yeah.
That's the maximum. That's wrong. That's not where you find how much air to put in your tires. You put your air, you'll look at that sticker on that trailer or in your owner's manual. It'll say 65 pounds. It may say 50. Sometimes they'll even deviate from the front tire to the rear tire. On the front axles, they want 65. On the rear axles, they may want 75. That's very important. You don't want to put the maximum amount of air, because that makes those things oblong like an egg, and they will wear out a lot quicker, and the integrity of that tire will break down even faster than if you had to maintain the right amount of pressure.
Now, I'm seeing some people talking about dry rot in the instant chat room here. So, I mean, that's, again, a thing where you want to keep the trailer moving as often as possible, or are there things that you can do to prevent dry, like tire covers if it's going to be sitting or something like this?
Yeah, you can do that, Greg. Some people, like I know when I store mine, I'll put the jacks under it and take the weight off the tires. That certainly helps. but 20,000 miles on a trailer tire is about all you want. And I know the big teams, they say that's a year. That's right. That's a year. But what's the difference? If you're on the side of the road with a tire that's blown out, that's shredded, I bet you wish you'd have bought a tire and went by the 20,000 mile rule. They're not car tires. They're not built like car tires. They're stronger than car tires, but the integrity of the rubber, I don't think, is as good as a car tire, and they will break down.
When we talk about the maintenance here and grease specifically, do you recommend a certain grease like a zero-base grease or number 2 grease or something in between there? Or is that something that the manufacturer is going to call out in their maintenance
No,
board?
you're looking for just LB lube. It'll come in a grease gun. It'll come in a big 35-gallon barrel. Sometimes at your service station. We have a portable gun that we just take out. It's got a hand pump on it. It's very easy to use, and you don't want to load it up. You don't want to get out there and start squeezing, and that just makes a big mess. And then you'll have grease on the outside of your wheel, like it's splattered, like something's wrong. It just takes a little bit, but and that's good to do in between in between trips, and for subtle maintenance. But once a year, when you get in, maybe after the comp season's over, pull those wheels off and take those bearings out. And what I even do is, like, next year, I'll replace the hub assembly on the front axle on mine and on the brake axle on mine. I'll actually take the whole hub off. I'll go down to the next exit where there's a Northern Tools, and they carry all of these hubs in stock, and I'll buy them. And it's not a bad idea to go down there and buy them and just take them with you in case you do need them, because they're you can go down there, you can match them up. They've got numbers on all this stuff that comes off of a trailer, has serial numbers on it, and it's all a universal serial number. In Northern Tools, I know everybody's got a Northern Tool Bomb. They have probably the best selection of mass-produced axle parts in the nation. And just grab a couple of extra ones. Grab a couple of extra lug nuts, a hub assembly. You don't have to get both of them. Just get one. Chances of both of them going out at the same time are very rare. Get one. Get that brake hub. The brake hub is that's the one that goes bad all the time because that's where all the heat is. Grab a brake hub and take it with you. Put it in the box. And that way, if you do have to make the repair on the side of the road, it is possible if you've got the parts. If the bearing hasn't seized to the spindle where it won't come off, you can fix that on the side of the road in a time matter of about an hour. So sometimes that's the difference between being inconvenienced and then having to put that trailer up on a rollback and spending $250 for the tow just to get to the shop.
But is the fix easy? Like, if we're going, I always try and dumb it down to where I would start. I mean, I think we've all figured out at this point that I'm not necessarily the most handy guy in general. We talked about the whole tire thing there a couple of months ago, but is this something that I would be able to do, or do you have to have some kind of wits about you in order to make these repairs?
Well, number one, you'd have to have the right tools, okay? And I'm a car guy, so I take tools with me. I've always got the right tools. You could do it, and the thing about it is, you could go on YouTube on your phone and you could figure it out if you had the right tools. But even if you had to have the trailer towed, Greg, you'd have the part for the technician. Say if it was on like a Saturday afternoon, and they had their B technician there in the shop. The A guy had gone home. The B guy could still fix it if he's got the part. He can look at the old one, said, "Oh, okay, this is how it works. You've got the new one. Oh, okay, this is how it works." Take it off, put it on. The spindle's nice and smooth. Maybe get a little emery paper, smooth up that spindle a little bit, where the race of the bearing will ride on it, and then you're heading down the road after your competition's over. You're getting home a little bit late, but at least you're getting home and you don't have to go back to where you left your trailer a couple days later and pick it up.
Steve, where are you going to be competing at for the balance of the year? Anything on the agenda?
Yeah, my next one is actually in September. It is at the 14th at the Blue Gray competition in Chickamauga, Georgia. And then after that, we've got the Lamar Johnson Classic here in Ottawa. So we're looking forward to that.
Are you still on board with the World Food Championships just as a fan? Do you like it still?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I'm looking forward to it. I follow it on Facebook. And there's so many posts you can't hardly keep up with it. I'm like everybody else. Some of that stuff confuses me, but I'll keep up with it in Dallas. I'm a big fan. I'm really interested in the barbecue. I think Mike's got the barbecue aspect of this thing figured out now.
Do you like the fact that it's moved, almost every year over the last couple of years? I mean, I know it stayed in Alabama for maybe 2 or 3 years, and then it was in Florida for 1 year, and then I think it had moved somewhere else prior to moving from Las Vegas. Or do you think it's just growing pains of a new sport?
Yeah. Well, it's a business for him, and I mean that's his business, and he's looking for the best deal. He's looking for the biggest bang for his buck, and of all the places he's been, of course, Vegas is big, but Dallas is it's big in a different way, mm-hmm. And I think it's a better fit. Orange Beach is nice, Greg, but it was a weird place to have that. It wasn't. There's not a lot of tourists that came through there. It was just weird. And I think Dallas is more of a big city setting, I think is where he needs to be. In Dallas, sure. I would love to go down there because it's going to be cool. I tell you, if you get to go, that, the barbecue's fun, everything's fun, but I'm telling you that kitchen arena, man, that's the place to be. Those guys are talented people. They are fun to watch.
Steve, where do people find you if they are in need of maintenance and they happen to be traveling through the greater Chattanooga area?
Steve Ray's Midnite Oil right on I-75 on exit 11, 643-1111. You can find us on Facebook, Steve Ray's Midnite Oil. You can contact us there. And we're easy to get a hold of. We've got a wrecker service. If you need to get towed in, we can help you there. We stock tires. Northern Tools is just down the street where we can grab our spindles, and we can get you going.
All right, Steve. Always appreciate the time here, and grab a quick beverage because we're going to turn you in about another 15 minutes.
Sounds good, Greg.
All right, there he is, Steve Ray, on the maintenance side of things right now, and then he will turn into that's not the right thing. He'll turn into the Tennessee Embedded Correspondent in about 15 minutes. So, a lot of great information there from Steve, and if you are, again, interested in getting a hold of Steve Ray's Midnite Oil on Facebook, and if you're happen to be traveling down the highway near Ooltewah or Chattanooga, I guess is the big name city that's by Ooltewah, stop in for preventative maintenance, but on the off chance that you are in need of some dire assistance, he's there too. He's set record service. As Huff Daddy is pointing out in the instant chat, Steve Ray is the second longest running embedded correspondent of the Barbecue Central Show. So, that's Steve Ray from Steve Ray's Midnite Oil with the trailer maintenance. Great stuff, and while it's a great learning experience to see you taking pictures of your tires or seized axles, we would rather not have to see that. Let that be a thing that's starting to grow in the past. Do your preventative maintenance. Grease your bearings, pack your spindles and bearings and your brake axles, and go to the Northern Harbor Freight and get that stuff so you're ready to make quick repairs. Like Ralphie's dad in the Christmas Story, who always fancied himself on the NASCAR pits. All right, we're back to wrap the first hour right after this. Stick around.
Big name interviews, advice on cooking brisket and ribs, and the only host willing to share his honest opinion on all things important in the world of barbecue. It's the Barbecue Central Show.
All right, welcome back. By the way, special thanks to Jason King for the new logo. In case you didn't see, it's taking up the whole picture now. I had obviously pissed Jason off long enough for him to make me a correction on his own. Thank you, Jason. Mucho apreciado, muchacho. That means thank you, friend, in Spanish. Look at it. Takes up the whole screen. Very professional. All right, we are pointing to the second hour for the Embedded Correspondent segment. Refresh your libations, and we will be back. You're listening and watching the Barbecue Central show right here on the Barbecue Central Network.
This is Jim Minion from Two Loose Screws. I'm listening to Barbecue Central.
Happy to have you aboard here for the really big barbecue show.
Boing.
We cook because we have to, and we grill because we want to.
Hit me.
Fine, how's it going?
You have a great show. I'm a big fan.
Boing.
So what seems to be the problem here? This man looks like he's dead, and he's in the crackle.
Charbono! It's all about the charbono, dude!
Succulent fish! What?
He ate 2 feet for wiener.
Oh, listen, Libertius, shut your face.
I'm shaking like a dog shit peach seeds.
We have top men working on it right now. Top men.
And just like that, we are into the second hour. Welcome aboard. You have found the second hour of the Barbecue Central show. It's a show that talks about barbecue and grilling type items, and we do it right here on each and every Tuesday evening from 9 to 11 p.m. Eastern. It is a show that is also being recorded at the same time and sent to various podcast directories. So if you missed the live show, you can enjoy the show on podcast. You know, I caught a little bit of crap for as great as the Howard Stern mention was. Howard said, well, I heard you listen to a barbecue podcast. Well, technically, Howard, if we're being truthful, it's a show. It's not a podcast. It also is being recorded for those who want to listen to it as a podcast, but it is not a podcast. This is a live show. This is happening, if you're listening to this at any other time than between Tuesday at 9 to 11 Eastern, you will think this is a podcast, but nothing is edited. This is all happening right here, right now, on Tuesday, between those 120 minutes, live. So as you hear it Wednesday and Thursday, and then the best of on Friday. Now, of course, Friday is a podcast traditionally, but that was all live show, too, that John uses and that he's pulling from. So this is absolutely a live show that is aired over the internet. Global. I don't just have national syndication. I do have global syndication. I have a lot of power. So while many people are younger than me and many people have better social skills than me, nobody has a global platform much like me. I win. I win. So it is a show first, which also happens to record itself and send the archives up for a podcast type experience. That's what it is. It's a podcast type experience, okay? Lest anybody ever get me confused with podcasts that don't have the balls to go live and do their whole show out there for everybody to enjoy, and let's see what happens. Because it would be kind of bad. It would be really bad for a lot of people. And sometimes people that do podcasts don't use the magic tool of editing. I mean, that's what podcasting is all about. Figure it all out in the long form and then spend the time to go in and edit and make it sound good. Forget this old mindset of podcasting is romantic because it's raw, man. Screw raw. Well, screw raw. I don't mean it like that. I'm just saying forget about that. Lose that mindset. Be raw in your long-form interview, and then use editing a lot. Use editing a lot. If you think you have edited too much, continue to edit further. Your listeners will appreciate it. It just so happens I have happened to work really hard at speaking well and putting thoughts together and being able to conduct interviews that fit within certain time frames. It just takes practice, and I'm really good at it, and most of you aren't good at it. But most of you aren't really good at podcasting either. So my advice, my most expert advice to you is if you're in podcasting, you're going to get into podcasting. Get the long-form stuff down. Record the show, however it happens, because there's going to be a lot of good stuff in there. And then edit out all the crap. And don't be afraid to be very self-critical on what you think is crap and what you don't think is crap. Most of it's going to be crap. Edit it out. It's better to go a little shorter than it is to go a little longer. Because if people become under the impression that you're always going longer with worse, they're going to stop listening. It's always better to leave wanting, right? Leave wanting. That draws them back. Oh, maybe next week he'll get it all out. Maybe next week he'll go a little longer. That's what she said. Never happens either. Edit, self-edit a lot. Self-edit a lot more than you should. If you're doing a 60-minute show, or if you make a 60 to 80-minute recording, are you telling me there's not 25 to 30 minutes that can get yanked out? I think there is. Save that stuff, maybe for an extra blooper reel or something. Don't be afraid to edit. Come on. All right, still to come on the show this evening, the Embedded Correspondent segments, because it is the fourth Tuesday of the month, if you can believe it. We are into the What? Nope. Is that right? Where are we at? 23rd? 23rd? Oh, yes. We have bonus week next week. July is a bonus month, 5 weeks long. Lovely. Love that. Extra week of July. But we are through it. Soon enough, we'll be into month 8, 2019, rapidly coming to a close. Don't forget, you can follow me socially on Instagram and Twitter at BBQ Central Show /BBQ Central Show on Facebook. You can friend me there. Well, don't friend me, but just like my page. Once again, I will point out, I do have a personal page on Facebook. And if you have requested to be my pal on my personal page and you haven't seen that acceptance come through, keep waiting because it's not coming through. I don't use my personal page. I am held hostage by Facebook because I have to have a personal page in order to have a show page, which is stupid. I don't really post anything on my personal page. That's why I'm not accepting your friend. Just like my show page. That's all we really want to know about each other, that I'm going to put on a show on a Tuesday and you're going to like that show on Tuesday. So just go like the page and follow it. Make sure that it shows up in the news feeds. So when I post something on that page, you'll see it first. Coming up this Friday on the best moments of the Barbecue Central Show in 10 minutes or less, episode 82. 82! Holy moly. Taking you back to May 2014. Second Tuesday of the month, regular guest Meathead from AmazingRibs.com was on. At that point, we were talking in depth about the thermodynamics of cooking. That was a great segment. Also, barbecue legend, West Coast legend, Harry Sue from Slap Yo Daddy Barbecue appeared. And we talked about, at that point, him switching sides. So everybody knows Harry as a competitor. And not only a competitor, but one who really likes to have as small of a carbon footprint as possible. And he, I think on many occasions, has brought like one cooker, and he's done his whole competition on one 18.5-inch Weber kettle. So he's really into that. But we talked in 2014, May 2014, about him going from competitor to judge, and he talked about his experience judging instead of taking part in the competition, to someone turning in. So make sure that you subscribe to the show's podcast feed, even though it is a show that then turns into a podcast. You do have to be subscribed to the feed in order to get the Friday show, which is a podcast. Can I be more gray here? Can I confuse everybody as much as possible? I'm really trying hard to do that. That shows up on Friday and is produced by John Solberg, who happens to be the Michigan Embedded Correspondent. A couple weeks ago, we had Pat LaFrida on. We talked about plant-based beef or beef alternatives, Impossible Burger, Beyond Burger. Pat thought that there was a place in the segment, but he thought that patties were not the way, or competing with burgers was not the way. I don't know if you saw this. This happened about a week ago or so. Impossible Foods now developing fishless fish. Fishless fish. Impossible Foods, purveyor of the world's famous meat-free Impossible Burger, now developing an alternative to fish in response to the growing market for plant-based foods and to combat depleted ocean populations. Like the company's vegan beef replacements, these fishless fish would be made using a secret ingredient that mimics the taste and aroma of meat, or in this case, seafood. According to a new report by the New York Times, Impossible has already successfully created an anchovy-flavored broth made with plants. Pat Brown, the company's CEO, told the outlet that it's currently being used to make paella, but that it could also be used to make Caesar dressing. Beyond beef and fish, Impossible is striving to develop alternatives for every animal-based food by 2035. It's unclear whether or not the goal is attainable in such a short period of time, but Brown told the newspaper he's confident that the current plant-based beef recipe is malleable enough for other protein options. So, Impossible Burger is out, and fishless fish could be on the way. MSN.com with that report. Embedded Correspondence coming out. Jason King, isn't that just a fish stick already? No, fish sticks are fish, believe it or not. Kinger, shoot a video on how much fish is in fish sticks. The better test would be taking the fishless fish from Beyond and then doing a side-by-side comparison with fish sticks. By the way, fish sticks, delicious, if you were wondering. Also delicious are Green Mountain Grills. That's right, some of the best pellet cookers out there on the market today. 3 different sizes to choose from. The big one is the Jim Bowie. The medium size is the Daniel Boone. The travel model is the Davy Crockett. Davy Crockett introducing originally that 12-volt power technology. So if you don't have access to a traditional power outlet, all you have to do is plug in the the Davy Crockett and 12-volt outlet of your car, and away you go. And you get pretty decent capacity with the Davy Crockett. I mean, you're not jamming 6 and 8 butts in there, but you probably get a couple at least. Now, they also have a new Prime line that's been out for most of the year. This one built on a little bit more of a sturdy chassis and or frame, has a peek-in window in the main cooking chamber, a peek-in window on the pellet hopper, 2 internal meat thermometers, a whole bunch of new tech, including the 12-volt technology that the Davy Crockett has. They also have a number of great cooking complements to go along with it. Should I say accessories? I will. Pellets, sauces, spices, rubs, other great accessories that will make your cooking more efficient. You head over to greenmountaingrills.com. That's greenmountaingrills.com, and check out everything they have to offer. And if you get the Jim Bowie or the Daniel Boone, don't forget to pick up that pizza oven as well. Go to the dealers. They teach the dealers teach you. Everybody's happy all the way around. We're back with the Embedded Correspondent segment. Stick around. We'll be right back.
The only show giving you a monthly visit from a doctor of barbecue. A man actually named Meathead. The author of a barbecue Bible. Bloggers, reviewers, competitors, and manufacturers by the dozens. It's the Barbecue Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
Hey, welcome back. This portion of the show being brought to you by Fireboard. Monitor up to 6 different temperatures simultaneously. Connect to Wi-Fi for cloud-based monitoring or connect via Bluetooth. If you have Alexa or the Google Assistant in your home, you're in luck because Fireboard is fully integrated with both. Find out more by visiting fireboard.com or call 816-945-2232. That's 816-945-2232. It is the 4th Tuesday of the month, and that means a refiring of the ever-popular Embedded Correspondent segment. David Huff, Doug Scheiding, John Solberg, and, of course, Steve Ray making his second appearance in the second hour, or his first appearance in the second hour, second appearance on the show in total this evening. So, gentlemen, always appreciate you guys coming on here in the 4th Tuesday of the month. We have a bonus week next week here in July, but we are racing through it. Doug and I are wearing the same T-shirt tonight, which I find incredibly endearing to the host, so thank you to Doug for that. We're going to start with burgers this evening, and that was a topic, I forget exactly where it was spawned exactly, but I would imagine between the 5 of us, we've eaten roughly 780 tons of hamburgers over our live fire lives, but geez, it's just one of those things that when done right, a few things beat a properly cooked hamburger. And I thought it would be fun to do a little hamburger roundtable. So,
absolutely.
Let's start with David Huff from Oklahoma, and we'll start right at the beginning. David, are you a pre-ground fan? Are you a grind your burger fan? Are you it's whatever mood strikes you fan? What kind of grind guy are you? And we'll start to build in and go around the table from there.
Sure. So I don't have my own grinder. That's one of the things on my wish list. But for my friends who have grinders that have used them, I absolutely prefer to grind them at home. Then you can experiment with brisket or different types of meat. If you got to buy it at the store, as long as you trust your butcher, an 80-20, maybe 85-15, something like that, that's fine by me.
What about you, Doug?
Yeah, I don't have a grinder yet, but that's on my wish list. But yeah, I like to actually my preference is to buy the patties already made in 8-ounce patties. So I prefer to do that.
And where do you have a purveyor of choice?
No, I actually just buy the ground brisket at my local grocery store. And to make the patties, if I have to buy, I use this pickle lid to make the patties into the right shape and size.
You shove the meat inside of the lid?
Yeah, I put it down into a little ball, and then I shove the meat down, the lid down on the meat, and it puts it into the proper size that I like.
How about that? All right, Steve Ray, are you a grind your own guy or already done guy?
No, I've got a grinder. I've tried it a couple of times. I don't use it. I'm like Doug. I go to the grocery store, buy the 80-20 ground chuck, right off, already padded out, separated by wax paper. Usually there's 6 to a bag, 4 to a bag, and that's what I use. Now they do a good job.
Just convenient for you, Steve, or have you found the taste to be that much better in the already ground stuff?
No, the taste is the same. If I buy it 80-20 in bulk, and I've got a hamburger masher thing, that makes hamburgers. The taste is the same. It's just so much easier because it seems like that they hold together better than mine do.
All right. John Solberg, what about your grind?
I'm all of the above guy. I will take frozen patties, thanks to Greg Rampy and the Barbecue Central Show. I will buy the pre-made patties. I will form patties. I will grind my own. And I just want to throw out there, to grind your own hamburger, you do not need to own a meat grinder. If you have a chef knife or a food processor, you can accomplish the same thing.
Do you enjoy a taste over one or the other, John?
If I'm going to grind a burger, I really enjoy a 50-50 chuck to sirloin mix. And that is probably my all-time favorite mix in burger.
All right, David, I saw you shaking your head at the guys that were buying pre-portioned patties. And, I don't know if it's a snobbery on your part or if you feel like they're missing out on an experience.
If you're cooking for a large group of people, I have no problem for convenience buying a pre-made patty. I'm not going to sit there and make 30 or 40 hamburger patties, something like that. But if I'm cooking for a group of, 8 to 10, I believe that if you patty it yourself, you can treat the hamburger meat. You're not handling it as much. You can patty it loosely, and I think it makes for a more tender burger.
All right, David. So let's stay with you here. So as we get into the pre-cooking events, so you've ground your beef. However, we're ready to go. So let's talk about how you make a patty and what you're doing for seasoning if you do it at this point.
Okay, so I don't know how much time I'm going to have here. But
Just go. We got plenty of time.
Okay. I've conducted 3 experiments based on 3 kind of myths or thought processes when people cook burgers. One of those is, how often do you flip the burger? People have said you only flip it one time because it's going to be less juicy the more you mess with it. But then I was watching Chopped a couple weeks ago, and Alex Gornicelli, I believe is her name, she said, oh, that guy's flipping his burgers a lot. That's good. He's redistributing the juices. I'd never thought of it like that. So I wanted to do a test on flipping burgers. I also wanted to do a test on, do you season the patty throughout the meat when you're making the patty, or do you only season the outside of the burger, and does that have an impact on the final result?
All right.
And then the last thing I wanted to test is the divot that we've all heard about. If you don't put that divot and you hand patty, what kind of shape do you come out with? Because a lot of people get that hockey puck or that burger that is domed up and very difficult to eat because it's skinnier on the edges and bigger in the middle. What does that have, if any, effect on the final results? So I did flipping, and here's how I did it. And I'll run through this very quickly. 80-20 ground chuck. I did not season the burger for the flipping test. 8-ounce patties made to roughly 1 inch thick, and I used a mold with very light pressure to get the thickness the same on all the patties. I used a flat surface grill grates, with an average of 535 degrees surface temperature checked with an IR thermometer, and the range was about 20 degrees from the hottest spot to the coolest spot, so it was fairly consistent. Cooked it on a gas grill just for uniformity to make sure that the temperatures were as even as possible. And then I had a total of 8 patties that I cooked for a total of 8 minutes apiece. I flipped 2 of them every 30 seconds, 2 of them every minute, 2 of them every 2 minutes, and 2 of them I only flipped 1 time at the 4-minute mark halfway through.
All right.
I rested them for 5 minutes, and then I weighed them again to see how much they had lost from 8 ounces to check for moisture loss.
Yep.
And then I temped them to check for doneness, as well as cut them open and looked at appearance. So here's the results. As expected, the most flipped, starting at 30 seconds, they fell apart. I tried to hold the parts that fell apart together for the total weight loss. It was difficult. The other shapes all held throughout the cooking process. The most flipped lost 31 to 33% of their total weight from the beginning. So from 8 ounces, they were down to 5.3. That was the most lost. The ones that were only flipped once, they lost 25%. So is it noticeable? 33 to 25%? I don't know. I'd say that's negligible, but they did lose the least amount of moisture. The crust was noticeably better on the 1 flip and the 3 flip. So the least flip burgers, the crust had formed much better.
Sure.
Here's the interesting part. The flipped burgers actually cooked much, much more quickly. At 8 minutes, they averaged 140 degrees internal temperature, where the ones only flipped once averaged 128.
Whoa.
And I'm guessing that's because as you have the crust forming and only heat coming from one side, the other side's not getting heat at all except for indirect. The ones that are flipped more, you're warming the patties up more evenly from both sides, and they're going to cook faster because you don't have a cold side and a crust on the bottom to protect the heat. Hypothesis on my part. At the end of it, all burgers remained juicy enough that the people that tested them, when they ate them, felt like that was still an enjoyable burger. But the winner was the burger that was flipped every 2 minutes, so a total of 3 times, because it had the best combination of crust, moisture, and speed. So if you were cooking to a temperature, say 135, it's going to reach that temperature about 2 minutes faster than the burgers cooked that only flipped once.
And that was the burger that was flipped every 2 minutes.
Every 2 minutes for a total of 3 times.
Right.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
Look at you.
Okay. Seasoning.
Nice. Well, that's some great research there, by the way, David. Appreciate you doing it.
Let me tell you, as a big guy from Oklahoma, I didn't mind eating all those burgers.
I got to tell you,
problem.
I am surprised that the ones that you were flipping, was the first one every 30 seconds?
It was every 30 seconds.
Okay. Well, that's the problem. I think if that first flip could have waited a minute and a half, maybe 2 minutes, and then you started flipping every 30 seconds from there, probably would have stayed together a little better. But 30 seconds on the griddle for anything, even if it was at 900 degrees, that thing's going to be falling apart. So that's a shame. I think that one probably would have been pretty good. All right, so continue. I'm sorry.
Okay, seasoning, 2 patties, both 8 ounces, used exactly a half teaspoon of Butcher's Grilling Addiction, of course, my favorite seasoning for burgers. Exactly a half teaspoon, and I seasoned 1 patty throughout before I formed it, and the other one I waited and seasoned only the 2 surfaces, and then I let it set on there for 10 minutes before I put it on the grill. Cooked them 8 minutes. I flipped them every 2 minutes since that's the one I liked best from the first test, and then hard to judge this one without having people taste it, so I had my family and friends taste the burgers blindly without telling them which one was which and give me the results. And I was checking for flavor, impact on moisture, and a lot of people will say if you season the meat throughout, the meat becomes more rubbery or has a firm texture, so that's what I was looking for.
All right.
Here's the results. No impact on temperature, doneness, or speed of cooking. So essentially they cooked the same. The weight loss was equal at 28%, no difference in weight loss, so moisture retention theoretically. The crust was only slightly better on the seasoned burger on the outside. Now, I didn't use kosher salt and coarse black pepper like I typically would. With Grilling Addiction, I think that's a finer powder, which probably meant that it didn't necessarily help to improve the crust on the burger seasoned on the outside. The overwhelming majority said that the seasoned burger had a more intense flavor from the seasoning because it was seasoned throughout. But it was also unanimous that the meat seemed less tender and did in fact have a more rubbery consistency.
Really?
Not necessarily juiciness, but it felt more firm even though it was cooked to the identical temperature as the one that was seasoned only on the crust. On the flip side, they all said the outside seasoned burger only seemed a little less seasoned, but it was definitely more tender. And all of the people, and there were about 8 total, seasoned on the outside was their preferred burger for texture and seasoning combination.
Interesting.
Yep.
Right.
And then the last one was pretty straightforward with the divot. 1 burger I pattied by hand. 1 burger I hand pattied and then put the divot in it. And then the last burger I used my press to get uniform, as Steve and Doug were talking about with the frozen patties have a much more uniform shape than doing it by hand. Cooked them the same way as above. The results were both the ones done by hand and the one with the divot done by hand, both domed up anyway, regardless of the divot. And the burger that held its shape better was the one that was more uniform from the beginning, which was done in the press. So that was kind of more straightforward, but the divot did not help that I saw over the patty made by hand without the divot.
And the divot is supposed to help retain moisture? Is that what it is?
No, the divot is to help as the burger cooks. You'll get that domed effect where burgers done by hand, they said without the divot would be larger in the middle, thicker in the middle, and then come down on the side. So it'll balloon up essentially. The divot was supposed to help that balloon come back up and make it an even surface and an even thickness. It didn't appear to work. You'll see Bobby Flay always talk about divot.
Yes, I was just gonna say Bobby Flay. I think divots everything that he makes.
I also looked it up on the internet, and there are people that have done the divot test, and nobody said that they had seen a significant difference in the divot and the not divot. So it kind of matched the findings.
All right, good for you. David Huff, bringing the heat, as it were, Oklahoma Embedded Correspondent. All right, so let's slide over initially to Doug, and Doug, let's talk about your seasoning process and like pre-cook stuff. What do you do?
Okay, I've always heard that you don't season the inside of the meat. It's not a meatloaf. It's a burger, so you season just the outside. So I did a little research, and I actually found a very good article by, is it
Kenji Lopez Alt?
Yes. So he actually did a pretty detailed study on this and seasoning the entire burger, all of the meat or just the outside. And his recommendation, he's got an article, and I'll be glad to send it to anybody that wants it. Basically, he says breakfast sausage is seasoned throughout the meat. And the reason is because the salt actually destroys a little bit of the meat fibers, and that's what makes it less tender. So I think, David, you kind of saw that. And so that's why you only want to season the outside of the meat and not all of the meat. Now, with regard to the dimple, I actually went to Cooks Illustrated, and the dimple depends on how you cook it. David, what was your temperature? It seems like it would be fairly hot if you're done in like 6 minutes through to a side.
The average was 500 and I think 30 degrees was the average grill temperature, the surface.
But you were on a gas grill, right?
Yeah,
straight on the grates. Yeah. So the dimple actually, what they said was basically that the dimple depends on how you cook it. So if you cooked it like on your stovetop, you don't need the dimple. The reason you need the dimple is because at 140 degrees of the temperature of the meat, and if it's getting heat from all sides, it's the collagen that's actually shrinking up, and that's what causes the doming effect. So I typically do dimple, and when I put it onto the grill.
All right. Let's see. We got 3.5 minutes. John Solberg, what do you do previous to getting it on the grill? What's your preparation?
I use a commercial burger press. It's very similar to Doug's cap idea. It controls the amount of compression that you're putting on the burger. You weigh it out, you put it in there, you don't overpress it. I season the outside of it, and I go to the grill. I just use salt. I mean, I'm a salt and meat fire guy, so my only seasoning pre-cook is salt.
No pepper at all?
Not until the finish.
All right. And then dimpling? You don't buy any of that?
You know, I did it for a long time, and with the commercial press, and I'm not cooking at, high temps, I don't find it necessary.
I don't know if you're a sponsored dimple or a commercial presser, but what brand do you find that you like the best? Because I want to get
I use a Lem commercial press. It's Wesson makes the same press. There are several companies with the same press. It's about a $24 piece.
You get it on Amazon or whatnot?
Yeah. Lem Products is, the name that pops in my head.
Is it, do you have to put paraffin down or like wax paper to keep it from sticking? Or is it made out of a nonstick innard?
It is an aluminum product. It is coated. I do use burger sheets because they're just so cheap, and it does make cleanup. I'm kind of clean freaky anyway, so I always use burger sheets.
A little.
Hey, it's not a bad way to be. Cross-contamination kills.
Yeah.
It just helps to clean up, and it also helps you get the patty out of the press, stack it neatly. They don't stick together. So, and 500 burger sheets are just a couple bucks.
What was your ounce of patty of choice?
I really like a 5 or 6 ounce burger.
Really?
Really? And double up if you need to, but
sure.
It's 2 for the price of 1. If you want cheese, you can double cheese. It's a good size to cook. You can manage a large amount of them quickly. If you double them up, you're eating 10 ounces of beef on a patty. That's not bad.
Yeah, right. All right, Steve, quickly before we go to the first break, what do you like to do prior to getting it on the grill?
I'm more of a get the grill ready real good. I get the grill grate on there. I get it hot. I'll clean it real good, and then I'll get the butter-flavored Pam I like to spray the grill grate down with. And while I'm doing that, I've got the patties laid out on a cutting board, and I'll go to my Butcher Barbecue, his hamburger steak, his steak.
Brisket rub and steak?
Yeah, no, it's not a brisket. It's got I think it's called the Longhorn. I can't remember right now. It's got real salty, and I'll use it. And I just let them sit there for just a little bit, just to let them absorb it. And then I like to keep them neat on that grill grate. I like to see if I can cook them all at the same time and have them come off all at the same time. And I'm usually successful at that. But I think using that grill grate, introduces a whole nother flavor to the hamburgers, no matter what type of meat, what mix of meat you're using.
All right, well, let's not get into the cooking yet. I was just talking about the pre-stuff here. So anything else from a flavoring or pre-cooked?
Just Butcher Barbecue stuff, yeah.
All right, so we are going to take our first break, and we'll come back, and we'll talk to the rest of the gents here. Give me 1 second here. Let's see. Grid view window. What the hell? Window. Like that. Hold on. Grid view. Somebody say something real quick.
Check 1 2. Check 1 2.
Test.
All right.
Test 2.
Oh, I see what's going on. All right. Okay. So anyway, let me flip back to here. Just figuring out Skype to make the viewing experience a little better here. You guys stand by, and I'll do a little business here with the folks at home. Talk to them quickly about the oldest barbecue joint in Texas. That's right, Southside Market Barbecue, established in 1882. Southside, the oldest joint in Texas. They've been owned and operated for the same family for 3 generations, famous for the original beef sausage, coarse ground, and natural pork casing. They also have authentic Central Texas barbecue to sell you as well. All meats, including the prime briskets, are smoked low and slow for many hours over real Texas post oak wood. They ship nationwide via the online store, southsidemarket.com, and they also ship fresh and smoked sausages nationwide. Shipping customers can choose to order now, ship later, include a custom gift note, and mail to multiple addresses without additional charges. All shipped items vacuum sealed to ensure freshness and ease of preparation for the customer. They're processed in the on-site USDA inspected facility. On-site meat markets for fresh and smoked products. Custom orders are welcome as well. If you want to eat there, 2 restaurants at your disposal. Elgin, Texas since 1882 and Bastrop, Texas since 2014. Grocery distribution through Texas and many surrounding states. Don't forget, if you shop at southsidemarket.com, you get 10% off your entire online order when you use code BBQ Central. That's all one word and lowercase BBQ Central. BBQ CENTRAL. All you get for your online order, 10% off. How about that? Not just your first order, every order going forward. Southsidemarket.com and promo code BBQ Central. And we are back with Burger Talk with the Embedded Correspondent. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Continuing to produce incredibly mediocre content in an exceptionally professional way. You're listening and watching the Barbecue Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rampey.
Are you ready to find out where you rank against all competitive barbecue teams across the country? Visit SmokingWithSmithfield.com to check out your rank with the Smoking with Smithfield National Barbecue Championship Leaderboard. If you're not signed up, you can't be taking part in it, so do that too at the same website, registration free, so sign up today. SmokingWithSmithfield.com. And we rejoin the Embedded Correspondents. We're talking burgers for now. So, David, you kind of blew the wad on your reveal of all your burger stuff, but that's all right. I mean, that was a great stuff. I just don't want you to feel like we're leaving you out here through the rest of the stuff. If you hear of anything that, of course, that you think is trash or that you want to also weigh in on, just raise your hand and we'll get right to you. Doug, let's go back to you from a cooking portion. How do we fire up the grill? What temperatures are we cooking at? How do you like the flip? Let's talk cook.
I fire up the grill to about 450, 500. And I make sure that I always cook my burgers on the griddle. And I think that's important because I hate, for some reason, I think it prevents it from crumbling. And before I put it on there, I actually put a little butter on there. Your buddy Michael Simon likes to put mustard on there to get a little extra char. Yeah. But I'll put butter on it, and then I put it on the grill. And then depending on the thickness. So if you get the preformed patties, a lot of times they're thinner. So I'll flip about every 3-4 minutes. But if it's a big thick patty, usually 8 to maybe even 9 ounces or so, I will probably flip every 6 to 8 minutes, and usually it's about 3 times.
All right. What was the size patty that you said you like?
8 ounces? I like anywhere from 8 to 9 ounces because I think one of the most important things on a burger is the meat to bun ratio, and I want to have more meat, and I want that meat to be sticking out from the side of the bun. Otherwise, I don't want the burger.
Otherwise, you don't want the burger?
Well, it's to me, it's not as attractive.
Is it starting to look more like a hot dog if it doesn't do that? What are we talking about?
I want a little Lohas on my burger.
That's right.
I want a little Lohas on my burger.
I got it. So, from a temperature standpoint, will you thermopen a burger, or do you just do it from time now?
Oh yeah, no, I'll thermopin a burger. So I'll thermopin it to anywhere from 150 to 155. So I'll pull it because there will be a little carryover. So
all right, let's go to Steve Ray. Steve, talk to us about your cooking method.
Yeah, I jumped the gun a little bit. I'm sorry about
That's
that.
all right.
I used a grill grates, grill grate side up. I usually do 3 across. Spray the butter, like I said, on the grill grates. I don't use a thermal pan. I watch the top of the burger and watch a little bit of when moisture starts popping up on the tops when I turn it, and then I'll usually leave it for about 3 more minutes. I like to cook anywhere between 5 and 550 degrees. I find that's what works for me, and that's it. It's very, very simple. I use butcher's butter, just regular butter flavored grilling oil as my binder for the spices and the flavorings, what have you. I did find something I like a little bit better, and I'm going to share that with you in a little bit. And I found that out today. It's really cool. But that's it. That's just it. Just cook it. I like mine about 145. I like mine rare, and it's okay if you know where the meat came from, and you're doing it yourself. A rare hamburger works.
All right, John. Let's talk about your cooking method.
Man, I'm a fart in a windstorm. I'm all over the place. I feel like I'm like the odd man out here because
really,
it's like, what do I feel like cooking on today? I'll throw them on a pit barrel, open on a grate. I'll do a charcoal on a Jumbo Joe, a gas grill. I don't think about it that much. I make fire and I put a burger on there.
Is there no
flip it
favorite
around.
way for you to do it though? Like if you could only do it one way for the rest of your, let's ask the Sophie's Choice question here on this show because we ask the hard hitting questions. If you had to do it one way for the rest of your life, how are you going to pick amongst?
I'm going to a gas grill just because it's the simplest way to do it, and I can make a whole lot of them fast, and it's going to be consistent.
All right, David, are you hearing anything that is making you ask internal questions?
I mean, I would ask Steve. He says he uses on the grill grates. He uses the grated side up.
Yep.
I prefer the flat side because I want as much contact with a hot surface to get that crust like you were doing on a griddle in an old diner or something like that. So do you prefer the grated side if it's not for anything other than the grill marks? Or I've actually heard some people say they like the texture of the meat better if it doesn't have that crust. So just curious what Steve would say.
Steve?
That's the way I like it, David. It's just the way I prefer it. I like the grill marks. I can do a griddle. Sometimes if I do a griddle, I do it inside on the cast iron. I don't know how to answer that question. I feel like I've been put on the spot.
So, is it just like an appearance thing? You just like it because you like it the way it looks better, or just nothing?
No, I think it tastes good. I like the no flare up. I don't have to worry about, heat or fire.
Have you tried it with the grill grates flipped the other way?
Yeah, I think I have once or twice. I like the little marks.
All right, rails up it is for our Tennessee Embedded Correspondent. All right, so
how do you like it? How do you do yours?
Oh, hold on, I got a whole thing here at the end. Just wait. So let's see who's there. Steve, Doug. Doug, let's go back to you. Finishing. What do we like? Are we cheese? Are we everything? Are we very simplistic when it comes to topping? What are you?
Yeah, I'm fairly simplistic. I will say one thing about the griddle. Cooking on the pellet cooker or whatever and flare-ups and stuff, if you cook on the griddle, all that grease doesn't go on to the drip pan and helps prevent grease fires. So, cooking at that high temperature. Now, in terms of what I like, my favorite one is my wife's favorite, of course, which is pepper jack cheese and green chilies. And I'll put put the cheese on, and then I'll put the green chilies. And then I will also tint it. So I do that usually at about 145, 148, and I'll tint it with an aluminum pan, with the aluminum pan going over the drip pan and getting the heat that's coming up from the bottom of the pellet cooker. And then that helps melt my cheese a little better, I feel. So because I like to put a ton of cheese on it.
You cook all this on a pellet cooker?
Yeah, I cook it on a pellet cooker. I cook all the time. I cook everything on the pellet cooker. I fry chicken on the pellet cooker.
I'm not going to steer that ship into that direction at this point, although I had a wild fascination to do it, but we'll do that at another time. All right. So, is there anything else? No. So, are the green chilies like the stuff out of the can, or you like get hatch chilies from New Mexico, or like what do you prefer?
Perfect, exactly. Hatch chilies out of New Mexico, and we'll actually freeze them and use them throughout the year.
Really?
The Costco has the 505 brand that comes in the glass jars. Those are very good. No, I'm not a canned green chili guy. No.
All right, Steve. Let's go to you. How do you topping your burger?
Cheese, ketchup.
What kind of cheese?
American.
Yeah.
Just the yellow stuff in the wrapper.
Love it.
Ketchup. That's the only condiment I use. And every now and then I'll put a tomato on it. But lately I've been leaving the tomato off and I've been putting a fried egg on it.
How lately?
Last year. I've been doing a lot of fried eggs. I'm really getting good at frying eggs. And I put them on there. They're not runny. I make them so they're not runny. And that's kind of my burger of choice.
What's your trick to doing a fried egg? So are you flipping it over or are you leaving it sunny side up?
No, I'll flip it.
Okay. What's your trick to doing a good fried egg?
The way I do it, I put it in the skillet, and I hit one as soon as the white stuff gets a little fried. I hit the yolk and make it run.
Oh.
Then I flip it over and let it all get hard, and then I slide it on that burger.
Got it. All right. And that's it.
Yeah, that's simple.
All right.
And I like it small, where you can actually eat it instead of having one of those big tall things. I like this. Mine is very edible.
All right. Do you toast the buns?
Yeah, I'll throw them on the grill.
Yeah.
Sure will.
Doug, are you a toast bun guy?
No, not really.
Not really?
No, it's too much of a pain in the butt. I don't think it adds that much.
Too much of a pain in the butt. You're cooking hamburgers on a freaking pellet cooker and putting buns on a pellet cooker is too much of a pain in the butt?
ADD, and I burn the buns inevitably. So I always have to toast twice as many buns.
It's not even direct heat. What are you talking about? Holy shit!
No, I put it on the sides over the direct heat that's coming from the. So I always do that. So I always inevitably burn half of them.
All right. I asked somebody else already. Was it? Did I ask you, David, if you did the toasted buns? You were not a toast bun guy.
Oh yeah, I slather them with butter and toast the buns. Absolutely.
All right, that was John, but John doesn't eat bread, right? You're not a bread eater, John.
Not anymore, but I used to be. So I do have a way to build the perfect burger with toppings with a bun.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I do.
All right.
And it is, first of all, I don't want my burger to be the Bloody Mary of today because that's what burgers have become. So toasted bun, no oil on that bun. I want to taste a little smoke on it. Mayo on the bottom bun.
All right.
Fresh ground pepper, a hamburger patty. That is it. No cheese. Let that juice come out of that patty, get into that mayo and that pepper. Makes amazing sauce. You just got to try it.
No cheese.
Well, I'm again, a fart in the windstorm. I do it all kinds of ways, but if I get to pick one way, that's the way it's going down.
All right. So did everybody toast their buns, or did somebody say they didn't toast their bun? I forget.
Doug doesn't.
He doesn't prefer.
Yeah, only if requested.
Yeah. All right. And by the way, as we've just found out, if you're requested, Doug will burn your bun on a pellet cooker. No less. Wow, it's amazing. All right, so let's quickly go back around the room. We'll start with David since he hasn't gotten to say anything here in a couple minutes. But is there anything else from a burger standpoint, David, that you do? I mean, we didn't really talk about how you prep it or how you finish it, but like, what do you do to your favorite burger?
So I mean, I completely appreciate John's simplicity, but I'm a cheese guy. If a burger doesn't have a cheese, I don't want it. So I put cheese on the burger. Condiments, man, that's so subjective. Whatever floats their boat. Personally, I love the breakfast burger idea with the bacon and the egg and the cheese on it. Although, Steve, not picking on you, buddy, but if you don't have a runny yolk, I don't understand why you want an egg on your burger, because that's why you do the egg on the burger. And then my favorite burger is a good old-fashioned mushroom Swiss. I love the taste of sauteed mushrooms with garlic and maybe a little bit of Marsala wine and topped with a really good Swiss cheese or Havarti, and that's my favorite burger. I don't typically put a lot of vegetables on the burger when it comes to tomatoes, lettuce, etc., other than onions. I love a grilled onion on a burger as well.
All right.
And then Sorry, real quickly with the cheeses. Experiment with the cheeses. Try queso. Try pimento cheese. I mean, try something different. I've even made a burger with Alfredo sauce as the cheese. It's just fun. It's a burger. You probably can't go wrong. Worst case scenario, you don't like it and you're out a couple bucks. It's not like you're cooking a prime rib wrong or something like that. I mean, just have fun with it.
Yeah. Doug, is there anything else that you do burger wise?
I like to put a little bit of mustard on the bottom, lettuce over that, then the burger with the cheese, and then onions and tomatoes on top. I like the lettuce on the bottom so that the bottom burger doesn't get soggy if the burger has to sit for a while before eating.
All right. Steve, anything else that you do?
No, nothing.
No. All right. John, anything else that you do?
No, I'm not saying nothing because I'm all for Steve and his not runny yolk and preformed patties, so I'm on the outside here.
All right.
A little bit like Dave's burger bit.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not going to become the next one.
Yeah. All right. Well, so after listening to you guys and the lengths that you guys are going through to achieve this perfect burger further solidifies in my mind that I am doing absolutely the right thing, which, of course, is rushing to my nearest grocer's freezer section and buying Bubba Burgers because they are absolutely fucking spectacular. The brown box, fire up the gas grill to medium heat, which is about 450 degrees, slam that weird-looking frozen burger patty down on the flat side of my grill grates with a dollop of Butcher's Barbecue grilling oil, 4 minutes on one side, flip, 4 minutes on the second side, perfectly juicy, semi-pink middle, let's call it medium rare, why not? And they are just fucking delicious. American cheese all over the top. Sometimes I will do Swiss cheese just for fun. Always toast the bun. Some ketchup, some mustard. I like pickles. Just kind of depends on what mood I'm in that day. The cowboy candy jalapeno sometime if I happen to get some from my daughter's boyfriend's mother, if I'm using that chain of command correctly. But man, oh man, burgers are great. But I find, especially with burgers, and while Doug will disagree with hot dogs, sometimes simplicity is the key here. And I don't want to go too far away from what it is, which is a piece of grilled ground beef, and I find that to be particularly amazing. And I don't want to make it taste like a meatloaf or like something else. I just want it to taste like a really good hamburger. When they're executed really well, we can sit here for 40 minutes and talk about something like this, and that's why they're great. Oh dear, we're quickly running out of time, and there was a whole nother subject that I wanted to get to, and by next month it might not even make a difference. So let's just quickly span the dais here and give me your 15 to 20 second preview cut here. Traeger has filed a lawsuit against Danson's, which is the company that makes the Pit Boss cooker, alleging a number of things that they've hired the original Traegers. There's a lot of murkiness that's going on, that there was a payoff of $9 million for the Traegers to stay kind of out of this business. But I don't know exactly where the key points were. And there was a Traeger online portion that I have, and also there was an answer by Danson's basically refuting everything the Traeger said. But you guys were able to read both sides of it. Doug, you're a little bit more intimate on this, so if you want to recuse yourself, that's certainly up to you. But David, let's go to you first and get your take on the suit itself, if you think it's going to hold up, and what you think the end might be.
Here's what I know. I don't know the specifics of the contract, but I do know that lawyers are paid an ungodly amount of money to make sure that as much ambiguity in these contracts is removed as possible. There is something in that contract that specifically says what Louisiana Grills or Pit Boss would be allowed to do should they hire either of the Traeger brothers. And if they either violated that contract or they didn't, and I think it will come out in however far this lawsuit goes. I just can't believe that there's any type of ambiguity in the contract that would leave this up to some sort of subjective opinion.
John Solberg, your opinion?
It doesn't matter right or wrong. Doesn't matter what's in the contract. Traeger has a lot more capital and can fight this fight longer. It's not about it's not about anything other than that. Whoever can litigate this the longest is going to win, and I'm calling Traeger the winner right here now.
So are you under the impression they're just trying to squeeze out potential market share gainers then?
Well, I got to believe Traeger's not stupid. Think they got a chance, and they can litigate longer than Danson can, so they have a good chance of winning. Otherwise, I wouldn't make the investment. So I think that they are going to try to block that market share out, and I think they'll be able to do it.
Steve, your thought?
Well, Danson has hired the Traeger brothers, which...
Now, hold on a second. I just want to clarify. I think this is actually a son, or a father and a son. I don't think it's the brothers. Am I right on that, Doug?
A duo, the Traeger duo.
Okay.
And for some reason, Traeger feels like this has damaged them. They've got to prove damages. So that'll be the main part of the trial, if it goes to trial, is what type of damage did Traeger suffer by Danson hiring this father and son team to help market Pit Boss smokers.
Doug, do you have a thought? Or are you allowed to say anything?
Yeah, I'm not an employee of Traeger or an agent of Traeger. I am sponsored by them and an independent contractor. Anything that I may say is my own personal opinion.
All right.
I actually am a business broker. And I find it very interesting from the standpoint of usually when there's a transition or a purchase of a business, you've got the non-compete. You can't prohibit the other, the previous owner from working. You have the name that was transferred and in the press release, it says the Traeger paid $9 million for the exclusive and perpetual right to use the Traeger name, likeness, and reputation in the wood pellet industry. So, if you go to the websites, you see the old Traeger, I don't know if they paid for the use of the old Traeger, the barn, in terms of that likeness and in association with Traeger. And if you're going to trademark or have patents, et cetera, I know that when they came out with the Timberline, there were 16 patents that they had with the Timberline. And then they've also trademarked Traeger has most of their grill names. And, I don't think I've ever been to their website. And I saw that they have, a tailgater in the same way that Traeger does. And so I don't know who was first, or they have an Austin grill, which is very similar to the Texas grill. And they have Pro Series, which is, identical to what Traeger has. So I think it'll be very interesting. And I thought it was interesting that Traeger put out a press release.
Yeah, like they I hate to say getting out in front of it isn't the right thing to say, but basically announcing that they are filing suit.
Yeah, I thought that was very interesting from the standpoint of I don't know if I really can recall that someone has done a press release that they were going after another company and stuff. So, but and again, I don't know anything about it from the internal standpoint. That was just what I did in terms of research. If you go to their websites, you'll find some of the same stuff.
Do you have a thought on how it might end up?
Yeah, I think Traeger will win. I'm in agreement with John in terms of we'll just and looking at the websites. You look at it and I was surprised to see the same names and there's grills called the Founder Series, etc. So I don't even know about that, which to me would seem to be against what they paid the $9 million for.
Yeah, and I guess I was surprised. I don't know when they sold to whoever ended up buying them out. Whatever version of Traeger bought the Traegers out. I mean, let me step back and say $9 million is certainly a lot of money, but does $9 million seem like enough money at that point? Like, did they get the Traeger name at a bargain at $9 million, Doug?
Well, that's interesting. I don't know the structure of the whole, as a business broker, I don't know the structure of the transaction, but it is interesting that there was a dollar amount because in most of the transactions we do, the name is just included in the overall purchase, but a lot of times that dollar amount is used for potentially damages or, in this sorts of thing, there's usually a clawback type clause, et cetera. So I think it's think it's interesting. And, if you're going to have trademarks or patents, the question is, are you going to defend them? And if so, how much is it going to cost you? So if you're going to do it, you need to defend them. And I think that's what Traeger's doing.
All right. So now I did send a list of 4 or 5 questions over to Danson's over the weekend after I had seen this litigation be released, especially in that press release. And asked them 4 or 5 questions and told them we're going to be going to air on Tuesday at 10 o'clock. We're going to be discussing this specifically. And if you could have your owner give his answers to these or tell me you don't want to answer them. So to this point, I feel like a real journalist when I say this. I've got no answer back from Danson's on those questions. And they were not necessarily hard-hitting, but they were, pretty direct in, did you read the agreement that the Traegers had on the buyout? And do you feel that there was any malicious acts done in order to, there was a lot of talk of that Pit Boss was trying to confuse the customers. And I would maintain that it's hard to confuse somebody even if the model names are the same. It's hard to confuse somebody if you're going to buy a Traeger. I've never heard anybody say, I thought I was going to buy X grill, but I bought X grill instead. That was my mistake because I thought it was this or that. I think that's going to be a pretty big issue. Now, when you get into the minutia of Pro Series versus Pro Series, sure. Then you probably have a little bit more of a hurdle to overcome. But I've never heard anybody say that they've been murkied up enough by one company or another and their advertising to where they went to the store and bought the wrong grill on accident. People know what they're buying. And we'll see how it goes. But I got no answers back from them, so hopefully in the next week or so we get something back from them, and we'll see how it goes here. But the fourth Tuesday of the month, I can tell you this. David Huff from Oklahoma, Doug Scheiding from Texas, John Stolberg from Michigan, and Steve Ray from Tennessee will be joining me going forward. They are the Embedded Correspondents, and I say, gentlemen, great burger talk this evening, and thank you so much. And there they are. Look at these guys. The Embedded Correspondents, of course, doing it live with me every fourth Tuesday, and trying something a little bit new with the grid on the video side. Always trying to keep it a little nice for you guys as we run a little bit long. Somebody who is currently not under litigation is the Barbecue Guru. Way to go, Bob. Way to keep everybody at the Guru out of trouble for another week. The Barbecue Guru has always believed that outdoor cooking should be easy and fun because it can be. They have this new thing called the Monolith Barbecue Guru Edition Grill. It's the world's first temperature-controlled smoker with a built-in power draft fan. This means smarter control and greater freedom with automatic temperature controllers. Easily choose your cooking time and temp, and let the Monolith do the work of a sous chef or a barbecue pitmaster. With minimal effort, you now have oven-like precision at the grill, and you can serve the tastiest, juiciest meals each and every time. If you already have a Barbecue Guru Pick controller, you don't have to get a new one in order for it to work on the Monolith. Just connect it right to that built-in power draft fan, and away you go. Now, if you want to upgrade that technology, go to the website, bbqguru.com. That's bbqguru.com. Or give them a call at 800-288-GURU, and they'll make sure you're outfitted with exactly what you need to get you up and running right out of the box. Barbecue Guru continues to be a breakthrough in barbecue technology. We are back to wrap the show right after this. Stick around. Be right back.
This is Steve Ray with Al's Nest Barbecue, and you're listening to the Barbecue Central Show with Greg Rempe. Can you believe it?
Whole packers, full racks, legs and thighs, injecting butts. If you've never heard this before, you might think you found the best XXX show ever. Let's get back to the most homoerotic host out there today, Greg Rempe.
All right, welcome back. Thanks again to the Embedded Correspondents for joining me the last two segments, mostly talking about burgers. So hopefully you learned a little something there. If you weren't in the YouTube chat, you were missing some great one-off zingers in there as well, as far as burger advice, like mixing in gently cold water to help retain juiciness during cooking. I'm just deciding whether or not I want to read the Traeger complaint. I guess I don't. If you're interested or you haven't seen it, just go to my Facebook page, and the Facebook show page, by the way, and I believe I have it there, and I might have Danson's reply as well. I believe I posted both of those. If I didn't and you're really interested, just let me know, and I will make sure that I send the links your way, and then you can follow along. This is what we do. We're following along what's happening in the live fire industry. Now, whoever thought we'd come to a point where we have pellet manufacturing fights? Trust me, if your last name is Traeger and you don't work for Traeger and you're going to work for a different pellet cooker company, I mean, it's just bound to be some kind of a mess. your last name is Traeger, right? That's going to be a mess. All the way back in the first hour, we talked with CB, Chris Becker from CookinPellets.com. Make sure that if you have a pellet cooker, you give Cookin Pellets a shot. They make great pellets. So good. Then we talked with Steve Ray from Steve Ray's Midnite Oil. Talked about trailer maintenance. Stop blowing out your spindles, axles, and bearings in the wheels. Do the right maintenance. Come on. And in the second hour, we talked with the Embedded Correspondents about burgers. And we talked a little bit about the Traeger lawsuit that's been filed against Danson's, the company that makes Pit Boss. We have a bonus week coming up next week. Dare I say, one Myron Mixon makes his reemergence on the show in the first hour. Talking about ABBQ. Whatever. BBQ&A, that's what it is. Oh, I just got word Myron Mixon backed out. Sorry. Myron Mixon will be in. Meet Mitch is also in next week. Somebody else is already booked up for next week, too. Who is? I forget. Big show already booked. All booked. Myron Mixon, Meet Mitch, amongst others. Let's just say that way. September 11th, 2001. I will never forget. Till next Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern. This is your program host and proud U.S. American, Greg Rempe. Good night now.